the last thing that we're going to touch upon, it's the ugliest.
It's the man of the hour.
Yeah, Manning of the hour. Arch Manning, F grade. Like, oh my God. I'm gonna say this. When me and Kaleb, we've been friends for a hot minute. I also been a guy I love high school recruiting. I'm really good at that, especially on the quarterback position. And the Arch Manning conversation. So Dante Moore was up there in the same recruiting class as him. Dante Moore was also notably ranked ahead of Arch Manning as a prospect on certain websites. I applaud those websites for doing that. Dante Moore played against much tougher opponents throughout his high school career, had way better stat lines. The Arch Manning conversation starts first throughout his high school recruiting. So one, Louisiana. Louisiana is very much a top-heavy level in talent at Louisiana, meaning like there are some 5-star studs there, and then the rest of the state sucks. Like, as a whole, they are not a depth, I would say, state when it comes to being a pipeline. For instance, I would say, like, at times, Ohio may produce a number 1 overall player, may not, but they're very consistent of having notable 5 stars and notable 4 stars and notable 3 stars, like altogether. There's a very depth pipeline state for recruiting. And where Louisiana, it's like, okay, here's the 3 best players in Louisiana, and like the 4th best player in Louisiana is a 2-star. And that's usually how Louisiana has always been when it comes to notable talent. And when you're recruiting players and evaluating them, the problem is how they're going against their constituents in their state, because you have to compare them to who they played against. Arch Manning played 2A ball in Louisiana. For people who don't understand like the level of like high school rankings when it comes to like sports, 2A is dang near like one of the worst in like high school football. Now, granted, you can only play whoever you got, right? Like in Texas, it goes up to like 7A. Like it's, and mind you, because Texas is so big, the amount of talent that there is, but like Arch Manning also was not only just playing against 2A talent, against defensively. Can you take a wild guess what was the biggest star rating that he played against as a defensive opponent?
2.5 stars.
Close, 2. A 2-star player. Now, when you're the number 1 overall recruit and the best competition you faced all year was a 2-star player,
red flags go up.
That's a little bit questionable, especially when it comes to quarterback, right? I'm okay with Leonard Fournette being a 5-star running back, because at the end of the day, it's like you're still kind of like running back is not much of a difference when you get to the college football, when you get to the pros. And same thing with like even like Moses that played, like he was a notable linebacker that came out of Louisiana, that he was a 5-star overall dude. He was like the number 8th overall player, and playing linebacker is a little bit different because it's like, okay, like at the end of the day, an offense can literally scheme you out and make you irrelevant, and you're still making plays day in and day out, no matter what the competition that shows on tape. As a quarterback, like, dude, the other team doesn't have a quarterback that can compete with you. So that means you're going to be benched probably after the first half if you put up ridiculous numbers. And then Arch Manning does the most unmanning thing possible. He went to a school to get set behind somebody. And
not typically what Mannings are known for.
And including his dad. Like, mind you, his dad was a stud at wide receiver at Ole Miss. And my thing is with that, and I've always said that if Arch Manning's last name was Smith and he had no relation to them, at best he was a 4-star quarterback based on what you saw with him throughout his high school recruiting. And then he does the most unmanning thing possible. He goes to a school in which he was not going to compete for notably 2 years. At best, he wasn't competing for 1 year. And I have never, when you are drafting a quarterback, Kaleb, let's say you're even recruiting a quarterback.
My hit marker would be pretty brutal.
You know what I'm saying? The guy you want to be the most competitive on your team is I'm okay with being a backup. And then also, mind you, this is statements he's also said about yours throughout his career of them together, that he's okay with being his biggest supporter, that he's okay with him being the starter, and he will wait his turn. if I want a quarterback, I want a quarterback to say it's my job.
No, especially with a guy like Arch Manning. Like, if I am, if let me just use an example. Not a perfect example because it didn't turn out this way in real life, but I'll push the example and we'll see where it goes. Last year, the Minnesota Gophers, they got UNH transfer Max Brosmer to run their offense. He was like had the injury waiver, had the COVID waiver, so he's been around for a little while. If Drake Lindsay was ready to go as a true freshman, I didn't bring in Max Brosmer to be the guy. He's supposed to be a Band-Aid. If I'm looking for that attitude out of like Max Brosmer, I'm looking for that attitude in the NFL from Joe Flacco because he's not my long-term plan. Arch Manning is supposed to be Texas' guy to bring them to the championship. He's not a Band-Aid player.
Yeah, you didn't recruit him.
That kind of attitude is a Band-Aid attitude.
Yeah, like I didn't recruit the number one overall quarterback. Some people, the number one overall prospect, to be okay with being a bench player. No, like I'm trying to, and on top of that too, mind you, we are in the era of the NIL. All these notable quarterbacks have, the moment they were not the dude anymore, or you brought in somebody for me to compete. Guess what? I'm out of here. Bye. I'm gonna go be somewhere that's a starter. Like that's the thing that's bothered me the most about Arch Manning is not only was his high school tape kind of suspect, not only that, but his recruitment process was also suspect. You're not going to go to a team that needs a quarterback, or not even just needs a quarterback, but like you can legitimately.
For my sake, tell me the schools that he turned down.
Well, Tennessee and
like
Ole
where
Miss.
He would have started.
So Tennessee, Ole Miss, he turned down. Which at the time, what you're looking at 2 years ago, he would have been competing with a transfer Jackson Dart at the time as a true freshman. Tennessee, he would have probably legitimately been a true freshman starter because Nico didn't come into the scene until literally last year. But on top of that too, like, was it Georgia was recruiting him, but then Carson Beck, Gunnar Stockton was already there. So he was at best being a third stringer there. But you're talking about number one overall pick, like Heisman, like number one overall high school recruit. That means any school you go to, they would gladly accept you. And for you to go to UT, who had viewers who also, mind you, that was one of the third highest ranked quarterback prospects to come out of high school. Viewers reclassified. He came in early. He's also a notable, huge, Ewers was way bigger than what Arch Manning was coming out of Texas. He was at a notable school, won, I believe, a state title with him. Him and Cade Klubnik have gone head-to-head many times. And he goes to Ohio State, only goes to Ohio State there to be a backup, kind of collect an NIL check, and then goes to Texas. And he was a legitimate stud. He was also a legitimate NFL prospect as well, too, at UT. That's why it was like, okay, that's a former number one overall quarterback. That's a true five-star who looked like it had every reason to be a five-star. And then you're okay with going in there when they kind of made the decision that it is yours team. Like, they fully were like, nah, I mean, Arch can come here and compete, but at the end of the day, the 50-50 goes to yours no matter what. And then yours makes that decision. I'm going to come back for my senior year and play. And then Arch Manning, at that moment, I think he should have just nutted up and just been like, all right, I'm gone. Like, I'm okay with you sitting behind yours because of that situation for year one. I'm not okay with him sitting behind him on year two.
Yeah.
And breaking down the game against Ohio State, mind you, this is not a notably good Ohio State team. Like, this isn't, people are like, oh, they're the reigning national championship. Bro, like 75% of that roster's gone. Like, that is not the team that won them then.
Two running backs, a quarterback.
Two running backs, a quarterback, and then, mind you, two quarterbacks left because technically Devin Brown was the backup last year. So then you're technically, your third stringer of last year is now your starter. You lost two starting running backs. Your whole offensive line, but one player stayed. Your whole defensive line, but one player stayed. Caleb Downs is the only notable defensive player that stayed.
My draft crush next year.
Oh, he's an absolute stud, bro. But Arch Manning against a 10-2 team, Ohio State would be very good for them this year, I would say. I could see them maybe losing to Michigan and Penn State. But for Arch Manning to not score a single point until 7 minutes left in the game, bro, what? Like, this is your coming out party, bro. This is your time to like show everybody you are the prince that was promised. And the big thing that I noticed about this game, other than being it massively fucking boring, like where's UT's offense? Did they really just invest like, oh, the Arch is just gonna make everybody look better than they actually are? No, like you're still gonna need studs around you. And Arch Manning, like I have never seen a piss poor performance from somebody. And then I've never been the biggest fan of him because, like I said, of his high school recruitment, his attitude, like that just not seem like he's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not dog mentality. Like I would have rather you, like for instance, like let's say, I don't know, would have been up if Quentin Ewers would have stays last year. And then there is a quarterback competition opened up somewhere. Like, bro, why didn't you, Arch? Why didn't you prove to everybody, like, man, I'm here to win. I'm here to start. I'm not sitting behind you. The plan was, I thought you were gonna leave after your redshirt junior year or his true junior year, and I'm gonna play. Like, there'd have been notable teams that would have done everything. I mean, like, put it this way: Will Howard was a transfer to Ohio State. What if Arch Manning went to Ohio State instead and started as a true freshman? They would have probably loved it.
Yeah, they might have lost to Michigan again.
That, or I mean, like same thing with like Michigan. Michigan had a quarterback vacancy. JJ just left to the NFL. Why not get Arch Manning? Same thing with Oregon. Oregon had a quarterback vacancy and they brought in Dillon Gabriel. Like these were notable places where Arch Manning could have been and surrounded by immensely talented teams there and proven that he was the dog. But what did Arch Manning do? He did the most unmanning thing possible. He was okay with being on the bench. And that will never and should never sit right with anybody, I think. If you're okay with how Arch Manning has treated his college career, I would be a little bit upset with you because it's like there's no quarterback. Like, bro, there's less talented quarterbacks that have made that decision a lot better than Arch Manning did. Like, I'm not the start. Listen, I thought I was going to be the starter at least my sophomore year. Guess what? I'm not. Bye. I'm out of here. Now, the devil's advocate argument that you would make is Dante Moore was a starter at true freshman at UCLA, transfers to Oregon, a team that he originally wanted to play for, and then they bring in Dillon Gabriel, and Dillon Gabriel beats him out, and then he sits on the bench. But at least he sat on the bench for 1 year. Yeah. And was like, all right, I'm going to play after this. And he beat everybody out and decided to play. And I'm just not this is starting to show like who Arch Manning is. Now, granted, it is one game. You want to play devil's advocate. It is one game. It's against the number 3 team in the nation and stuff like let's say Ohio State does go undefeated and they're the number 1 team in the Big Ten. Okay. But Arch Manning, I'm going to need you to throw for 400 yards this year, bro, in a game. I'm going to need to start the year off with, like I said, here's all the notable things that are not going Arch Manning's way for him to win the Heisman. 1, he's a preseason favorite. Both me and you talked about it, that the Heisman curse is very much a real thing. The only 2 players to ever lose their first game were Johnny Manziel and Jaden Daniels. Both relatively have asterisks next to their name because Jaden Daniels did 350 yards passing.
And Johnny had a weird scheduling
And
thing.
Johnny would have won his first game, but also had over 200 all-purpose yards against a very good Florida team. Where if you can find like Arch Manning's stat line against Ohio State, like, dude, like there is no, I promise you there is no stat line on there that looks good for him.
Arch Manning in the 14-7 loss against Ohio State. He threw 17 for 30, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a QBR of 58, put 38 yards on the ground.
And then what was it? Almost 50% passing rate, 17 for 30.
Yeah, it was a little over half.
So you were throwing the ball. So you were committed to that, and he did not look good at all. Like that's why I'm giving it an F grade. And I think you would have to now. Granted, he does play in the SEC, so he's going to face Alabama. He's going to face these notable big teams. Now, granted, Alabama just lost to Florida State, so. But if like another guy I have on here, John Mateer, like that's going to be a quarterback battle right there. And unfortunately, I think John Mateer is going to beat the brakes out of him offensively.
Yep, that's October 11th.
And so you have all these big games. That is Arch Manning's only saving grace from this is the fact that I play in the SEC. That's going to work for me. I'm going to play against notable televised games, and it is a week 1 game. Like it's a preseason game essentially for college football. It's the most likely that upsets do happen because nobody knows. I'm not a big fan of preseason rankings until like week 7 or 10, really, because you really don't know how good these teams are. Last year, Florida State went undefeated. They go 3-9 the next year. This year, they beat Alabama. I'm complete. I don't know who's who. I don't know if Florida State's good. I don't know if Alabama sucks. I don't know if LSU's good. I don't know if Clemson sucks. Like, so those are the positives you would say about Arch Manning. But my betting dollar is the fact that he does not win a Heisman, and he is not relatively going to turn this around to make him a Heisman contender. Like, I'm talking about if he loses one more game, that's a wrap. He is not going to be like, and what I mean by lose another, like, it don't matter even what game it is, because if he loses to a bad SEC opponent, gone.
Kentucky, yeah.
If you lose to Alabama, okay, well then Alabama lost to Tommy Castellanos. Like, what? If you lose to Oklahoma, that means John Mateer outdueled you. If you lost to LSU, that means Garrett Nussmeier probably outperformed you. So, like, he's in a no-win situation if he loses another game.
Yeah,
he would have to go undefeated the rest of the year and essentially almost do like a minimum of 200 yards passing and at least 2 touchdowns per game for me to and mind you, that's just if everybody else sucks and he does all right. Like, those are not stats that win Heisman races. He would need a four touchdown pass game, and he would need a 300 plus more passing game against a very notable team for the narrative to really be turned around about Arch Manning.
Yep, and I'll close it with this. This does not finish the story on if he can be a good player.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true.
This is just closing, or is getting. It's a warning sign for he might not be as good coming out of the box as we all kind of thought that he might.
Right, exactly. This isn't the guy that the Saints are willing to suck their season for just in case he comes out.
And I don't think he's going to come out, and I think that'd be smart.
Mm-hmm.